In this episode, I'm filled with rocks and rage. You hear me grumble and complain and just be in a bad mood. That's okay. Plumb Practice meets you where you are. Welcome to the Plumb Podcast. This is a podcast for possibility.
We begin from a unique starting point and the conversation unfolds from there. We express authentically and we create the space for you to do the same.
Hi, I'm Rosalee.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are the Plumb Collective.
The starting point for this conversation is a session of Plumb Practice.
I came into this session of Plumb Practice in a foul mood. I had a bad attitude. I was feeling a lot of feelings. I was hurt. On top of that hurt was a little bit of anger. I let the words out. I didn't necessarily feel better in the moment. Being in this practice, my belief goes deeper than my momentary feelings. My belief is that this framework works. By showing up and letting the words come out, the words that are just right there, I know that that starts my marble rolling. That starts the process of me feeling better. Even if it doesn't happen right away, it did happen. I do feel better. You witness me be in a foul mood. My commitment to the practice, getting the words out, not letting them stay inside of me, sitting with the bad mood.
Your experience meant something to me because of the experience that I had in Plumb Practice. I was writing some fiction. I was writing about a character who is running. Running makes him feel better. And he doesn't have the language in the thing that I wrote about why it makes him feel better, but he's noticing that there's something about feeling the pavement under his feet and feeling the breath exiting his body that makes him feel like something has lifted off of him or that he is lighter somehow. When I heard your writing, that very much felt like you were letting the words out. I felt a connection between this character and you. I was asking you in this session, do you feel better? Like, how do you feel now? Because I thought maybe you would say something that felt similar to how I was noticing my character was feeling. And you really weren't in our conversation. I asked you to say how you felt, and you didn't really answer my question. I could tell that you still felt very full of rocks and rage. Through listening to you talk, it was clear that you were still very much in the experience that you were writing about. Of course, right away, you weren't going to necessarily feel all the way better. But through our conversation, I heard you say this phrase, I know that this feeling won't last forever. And that there was something about getting the words out that was ensuring for you that the way that you were feeling wasn't going to take root and make a home in you. And yet right afterwards, you still felt it. But there was a part of you that recognized that there was great benefit in getting the words out.
Yeah. I mean, self-expression is powerful. And sometimes what our self is feeling is funky. To express the funk, to allow the words that are right there to come out, even when those words are words that we don't like or we feel bad about or we're unsure or they're confusing or it just feels like a lot. I felt your excitement and your desire for me to see something about how this would make a difference for me. You were encouraging and your energy felt peppy and I was just committed to, no, I'm not answering your question. I don't feel better yet. Something hasn't lifted off of me yet. I'm in the gravel pit. I don't feel like I got the gravel out of me. I'm filled with rocks and rage. That phrase came out so naturally in our conversation, and it now is something that I feel is such a poetic, beautiful thing that I said. But when I said it didn't feel beautiful and poetic. It just felt like, like I'm in a bad mood. Let me be in my bad mood. You weren't wanting me to push through or get to the other side, but you were noticing something shifted in me before I was really realizing it myself. Because when it's your own life and your own feelings. My feelings were hurt. That's why I was filled with rocks and rage. I'm deeply hurt by people that said that they would love me. They made promises to me and broke those promises. I was feeling the rawness of that emotion. I'm pressed up against it. I'm in it, observing me. You could see me from new perspectives that I wasn't able to see yet. It is a beautiful experience to be witnessed by someone else and to witness yourself. When I wrote the words, I felt like it was all complaints, that it wasn't good, that it was just awful. Because we create space inside of Plum Practice for all of us to witness our own writing, to read our words back. When I read my words back, I went, this isn't complaints. This is true. This is how I feel. This is actually really accurate to this situation. I am justified in my feelings. I'm not complaining at all. I'm speaking the truth of my experience. That was a really powerful thing for me to feel and to notice. And it didn't necessarily make me feel better in that moment, but it was those incremental shifts and then the space after expressing myself where I did start to feel better. And now today, I feel very differently about that situation. It still hurts, but it's not the same kind of rocks and rage that I was experiencing right after expressing myself.
As I was witnessing you, I think what I was seeing was potential, that there was great potential for something to shift through this practice. I was kind of excited, even though I knew that you were having a hard time, but it felt exciting to me because it illustrates so well. Plum Practice is a space that we can show up in whatever mood that we're in, whatever is going on for us. When we can practice being with what is, that there is potential for things to move and shift and change.
Taking it from that inner monologue or the bees being inside, swarming around, just to allowing them to form and leave the hive, you really do get this experience of seeing the thing that was inside of you, the thing that was hurting or discomfort, or this thing that you think that there's no way that it's going to change. Before we started Plum Practice, I was in a bad mood. I felt like there was no way I was going to feel better by the end of it. I did not have that expectation at all because it felt like this hurts. This sucks. I have a lot of feelings about this. My belief in this practice, in the fact that this framework works, that we were intentional in creating it, that there is something to this practice, I believe that. And so my momentary feelings don't stop me from practicing and from getting the words out so that I can see them, so that I can witness myself, so that I can understand more about how I'm feeling. But that only occurs by letting the words be what they are and not editing them before they come out or trying to make it sound good or trying to write something that's good or meaningful or profound. I just put the words on the page that were banging around inside of me. I got them out. As I was getting them out, I thought, I'm complaining. And then when I read them back, I went, no, that's how I feel. And that is what's profound. The writing wasn't that good. I don't like it. I don't know that I'll ever revisit it again. But the experience, the expression was profound. And I think that's true for all of us, that you can push play on this recording and something will happen for you. No matter what mood you're in, something will jiggle around, something will shift. You will feel something, you'll notice something if you allow yourself to participate in Plum Practice.
The idea of things lifting off or coming out, as I was writing that part, it was reminding me of how we feel about writing and getting the words out.
For me, I'm too close to it.
Yeah.
My face is against it. So it felt like, I think your question was you grabbing my hair and lifting my head up. And I'm like, I will not. I'm not ready to do that.
And that's okay.
Yeah. Oh, I know. And
Yeah.
you weren't forcing me or really pulling my hair, but I think
No.
that's why I couldn't answer your question because I'm
Sure.
like, I'm fucking in it right now. I'm
Yeah.
pissed. I am the gravel. The gravel has not come out. I'm filled with rocks and rage, you know? So but I know that's not true. I know that I wrote it, but I haven't hit space from it yet. I'm in it still. I'm in the gravel pile or pit.
But that is an experience that people do have and will have with Plum Practice. You get done with writing and you might kind of just be like, what was that? And I don't feel any better. And what's the point? But that being with the practice over time and these shifts happen and you witness yourself, it feels helpful and interesting for all people participating in Plum Practice that, yeah, you might not feel better right after you write it. And that it is a practice to do over time. You can do it once and experience benefits, but the stacking of it is where the real magic is.
Yeah. And the space before and after when you're not doing anything, it looks like nothing's happening, but it is. I know that I'll feel differently about this in an hour, in a day. And as more time passes, I'm glad that I wrote this today, even though I don't think it's very good. I think it's negative or kind of just like, meh. Before I read it, I was thinking for my bread, I would maybe say, well, I just complained. They were just complaints. It's like, no, that's not actually what it was when I read it back. This is how I feel right now. These are the words that are right there. And I documented it. And I will feel differently about this because I did get the words out. And they're not just banging around inside of me. And we don't have to figure it out. That's not what this moment is for. It's not for the finished, wrap it up with a bow. This is maybe the messy part or the part that doesn't make any sense. It's just the action of getting the words out. That's what this is.
Even if you don't revisit this writing, because this is the third session in this series, that you might not look at this ever again, actually, but something still happened. And I think that we can trust that, even if we're not aware exactly of what has happened, that something has happened, and that continuing to do this practice, stacking the practices on top of each other, that it makes a difference.
And it does. I mean, that's my belief, even though I don't feel that way right now.
Yeah.
I could be someone that heard what you just said and go, no, that isn't. That's the surface of how I feel. But my belief goes deeper than that. What I know to be true is under that. And then currently there's a covering, a smattering of grumbles and disappointment and wanting to physically fight. It's like that I don't typically feel that way. And if and when I do, there's a reason for it. So talking about it is as far as it's going to go. I'm not actually going to physically fight anybody. That's not going to happen. But allowing myself the space to feel it and say it and think about it is how, for me, then that energy moves through and I'm not holding on to it. I'm not swallowing it down. It's not growing inside of me. I don't really ever want to read this again. Like it doesn't, feel that important to me. And it's in my notebook. I could, and maybe I'll feel differently about it at some other time. And I would work with it in some other kind of way. Maybe if I feel the nudge at some point, or if I'm curious about it, if I get interested in it. But what this moment was for, I used the moment and you use the moment. That's enough. And it's more than enough. It's really great.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said all of that. It just feels like what you're saying about your belief going deeper than what's on the surface and that it feels like such important modeling for people who are maybe new to Plum Practice or haven't experienced exactly what you're experiencing right now, or have and didn't feel like they did it right. You know, if I do
Mhm.
Plum Practice and I don't feel better, did I do it wrong? No. It's so important for your experience, and it's just beautiful modeling for others as well. So thank you.
I'm glad that we had the conversation and that we show up. It's like, what is participating in Plum Practice? You push play and you just are here. That's it. Something will occur. It might feel like it didn't, or that it was funky. That does not mean that you did it wrong. Did you feel something? Did you write something? Did you say something? Did you express yourself? What is right there for me to express is some funky feelings, some anger, some disappointment that isn't a character assessment of me all of the time. But we think that a good person wouldn't be angry, wouldn't want to physically fight someone that is wrong or bad, or a good person wouldn't want that. That is not my belief. My belief is I feel this way right now. I'm going to allow myself to feel how I feel. I'm not going to judge myself. I refuse to do that.
More excellent modeling. Thank you. I mean, I don't want to say I'm glad that you're having this experience, but it does feel like it really important to have this come forward so that we can talk about it and be so clear about what Plum Practice is and what it's for, that it is really simple. This idea of being with whatever is in your experience right now, even if it's something that you think shouldn't be there. It's there, and you could push it away and swat it away. And sometimes we do that because we're not ready to be with that thing. Well, there's probably also something else in your experience. So you can go with that, or you can explore the resistance or whatever. There's a lot of paths, and none of them are right or wrong, especially if we have the intention to just be with what is there.
And I think that's the beauty, is that there's autonomy, there's choice. You get to say. And even in the fact that I was like, no, I'm changing directions, that's okay. Before we started Plum Practice, I knew I was in a bad mood. And I said, I'm glad that we're doing Plum Practice. I need it. I want to feel differently. If I had the belief that, okay, I'm in a bad mood, we're going to do Plum Practice and then I'll feel better. If that was what I thought was going to happen, I would be really disappointed and be like, well, it didn't work. That's not true. I was in a bad mood. I was very grateful and happy that we were doing Plum Practice. I was hopeful that I would feel different, and I was open to it. I was open to writing anything. I wasn't trying to force or control or make it be any kind of way. And then the fact that I feel different. I do feel like something is a little lighter, but I would absolutely say I'm in a bad mood. Like, I'm not happy. I don't feel good about humanity right now. And I know that that is not a permanent feeling. And it's also not an assessment of me as a human being because I feel this way. I know that it's important to me to feel it, be with it while it's here, so that it doesn't stay with me forever, that it doesn't take root and make a home in me. It's just here for the moment because I accept myself and I love myself and I like myself. I want to know if it's somebody that you like. I don't even use the word love because that gets complicated. If you like someone, you often want to know if they're going through a hard time. You want to be there to support them, or you want to listen to what they have to say. But we don't always make space for that for ourselves. We seek it out in other people. I'm in a bad mood and I want to, fight, or I want to complain, or I want somebody to help me out of my bad mood. But to be with yourself and connect with yourself in that bad mood and say to yourself, it's okay. This isn't you forever. I'm not going to think bad about you because you want to, bust some skulls. That's okay. It's understandable. So that's kind of the internal dialogue that I'm having with myself. It's understandable that you are upset. It's understandable that you are hurt and that you would want them to feel what you feel, and they don't feel it through your words. You want them to feel it in their bones. It's understandable that that is where you went because this hurts you. And so it's like, yeah, I'm angry, but really underneath that, I'm very hurt. And that is understandable. And it's not probably something that's going to be gone right away,
Absolutely. I love how you're talking about the purpose of getting the words out so it doesn't make a home in you. And also the acknowledgement that getting the words out doesn't make it go away, but it maybe loosens the roots if roots are forming, or it just provides some flow of something that keeps it from grabbing in and making that home. And it might still be there. It depends too on the intensity of the feeling and the experience. You're saying brilliant, wonderful, beautiful things. I'm so grateful for that.
Well, thank you.
Through the session, you ended up saying really great things about Plumb Practice, which I just think that's really cool, that even though you were pressed up against a challenging experience, you could still recognize that Plumb Practice works, even though it wasn't making you feel different in the moment, but you were committed to the practice and knowing that it works.
Even when I'm in a bad mood, I say quotable things. I say things that make a difference for me and for you. I think that's because I allow myself to feel my feelings. I don't try to be something different than I am. I allow myself to feel it and express from whatever it is that I'm feeling in any given moment. That's authenticity. That's being yourself. Even though I was in a funky mood, I could still hear that I was saying things that were important to say. I was giving an example by just being myself. That is incredibly healing for me personally.
And that is there for me and for anyone else to connect to. It's beautiful. I mean, our Plumb Practice portal is filled with over 40 sessions of both of us being ourselves and Rosalee saying quotable things. Plumb Practice members have access to all of these brilliant conversations and conversations where we show up as we are. I think one of the reasons Plumb Practice creates a space for us to show up as we are is because you spend time having a sensory experience, and then you spend time expressing yourself. And then we have a conversation from that point. We are really in this space of being ourselves. That's why our conversations always feel inspiring. Part of Plumb Practice is participating in the practice yourself. And there's also the benefit of listening to our conversations.
We would love to have you experience Plumb Practice for yourself. Check out the Mirror. It's our free foundational series of Plumb Practice. It's a fabulous way to connect with Plumb Practice for yourself.
If you want to experience the series that the writing from this session came from, you can check out the Make a Mark series. Or you could join the Plumb Practice membership, where we'll send you a new session of Plumb Practice every week, and you get to experience what we are exploring right now in this moment, what's exciting and interesting to us.
We would love to have you be a Plumb Practice member.
We'll put information in the description box for how to join, where to find the free series of the Mirror or the Make a Mark series where this writing came from. Tune in next week for a new episode of the Plumb Podcast, where you'll hear a new conversation unfold from a new starting point. The conversation will be different, but we will always express ourselves authentically, and we create the space for you to do the same.